Welcome to Feature Fridays. My name's Guy Bartram. I'm Director of Product Marketing for our cloud providers in VMware. And today we got quite a number of folks on Feature Friday today. Pankaj, Aziz, Steve, welcome everyone. Let's do a quick round of introductions. Pankaj, why don't we start with you?
Hello everyone, I am Pankaj Gupta. I'm responsible for product marketing for NSX Advanced Load Balancer portfolio. Looking forward to having a conversation with you all today.
Thanks, Pankaj. Aziz?
Hi, I am Aziz. I am a Senior Technical Product Line Manager with NSX ALB, Advanced Load Balancer team. And I manage the NSX integrations, VCD integration, and layer 4 features as a product line function.
Thanks, Aziz. And Steve?
Hey everyone, I'm Steve Lord. I'm the product manager in our VCPP group, related primarily with Cloud Director and its integration with NSX Advanced Load Balancer and also Cloud Director service.
Thanks, Steve. So we're here today to talk about NSX Advanced Load Balancer, funnily enough, and the services that can be delivered through NSX Advanced Load Balancer via Cloud Director, and also in a standalone mode with NSX Advanced Load Balancer. The product's been around in our cloud provider platform for about, I would say, between 2 and 3 years. But there's been serious kind of push in the last year and a half, I guess, in terms of getting feature parity with the old NSX V capabilities, bringing that into Cloud Director, helping cloud providers make the change to NSX T and NSX Advanced Load Balancer, which Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, now you cannot install Cloud Director without NSX T and NSX Advanced Load Balancer. They're kind of really integral to the solution now, and we've ceased developing with NSX V. So this is a really important time to start using the Advanced Load Balancer capabilities, start offering new capabilities to your tenants, especially in VCD, and start looking at some of the cool new features you can offer with Advanced Load Balancer. There's plenty of kind of load balancing services, container ingress services, web app firewalls, which we'll talk about in a bit, and when they're coming to VCD. But before we start with that, I mean, Pankaj, let's kind of get your view on the market as a whole for load balancers and where NSX Advanced Load Balancer kind of fits into the equation.
Thank you, Guy. For any CSP or VCPP partner, load balancing is a huge, huge opportunity for each of our partners. Let's look at a little bit more into details today. Let's get the basics first. Every application requires a load balancer. This is the simplest form of opportunity you have. As customer need cloud for storage, network, security, servers, similarly, they need load balancing. And customers spend significantly on load balancing depending on the size they have. And this is a more than $5 billion market right now, and it is continue to grow. Second thing which you have to look into is that a lot of customers already have load balancer, but these load balancers are legacy load balancers deployed few years back, many times 5 to 7 years old, and they are hardware based. As a CSP provider, each one of you know customers wants to move to a software-based product, and that's what this product does. Third thing is my most favorite one for CSP partners. It is a huge land and expand opportunity. Customer typically starts with one application or few application or subset of application. They realize the value and they expand into multiple applications across multiple groups across the whole organization. We have seen this land and expand opportunity growing 5 to 10x, in some cases up to 30 or 40x for that. So your cash registers will keep ringing quarter after quarter for that. So it may look like the first deal may be a little bit smaller, but once the customer likes it, they expand significantly, and we are going to show some of the blueprint here for that. Most of you may be already offering bring your own load balancer today. But the reality is that you don't make much money out of bring your load balancer because you're just providing the hosting services. If you start offering load balancer as a service, and which is purely software-based, your attach and your revenue opportunity will increase substantially. Those are some of the key reasons that every business development person in your organization should seriously consider offering software-based load balancer there. And I believe you are just like AWS, GCP, Azure, and they have built a billion-dollar revenue streams for themselves. Same opportunity exists for you in a very loyal customer base or the customer base which you go after. So there are so much opportunity for you. And this is the key slide I want you to remember. What is in it for me? There is a huge, huge opportunity for you. Let's look at some of the validation about the market transitions are happening. This is the IDC report. 3 things I wanted to look at. This market size is large. So you have to get the fair share of your into this market. Second part which I want to look at is the ADC as a service, the light teal color, the biggest segment here. Hardware-based load balancer market is shrinking or not growing fast enough. And customers are really looking for a software-based load balancer. They are looking load balancer as a service. Of course, Gartner and others call it application delivery controller service, the light teal color. That market is growing. As a CSP and a VCPP partner, you like to enter into a market which is growing and growing exponentially. And that's exactly this market is for you. And there are similar validation from other analyst firms over here. Third is the expansion, land and expansion. You see multiple use cases here. Your primary use case to start in many of the times will be load balancing in private cloud. The biggest value add with CSP or a VCP partner brings in that offering a private cloud services to your customer. This is the first use case you go after for that. The customers who wants to host application across the hybrid cloud with ALB, you will be able to offer that too for that. You will also find a big segment of customer who wants to land into your account, who you want to land the account, they start with modern applications. And that's where you go and talk to customer that which application you like to start moving to your cloud and like to load balance. Many times it will be a modern application which they have just refactored their traditional application or built new, or even if it is a traditional application, that's good for that. You might be a VDI or EUC provider, so you can attach with that. And web application firewall is a great another use case. Every application requires a load balancing. Every application requires a web application security. And similarly for web application security, customers are looking to move from on-prem to more cloud-delivered service. So there are multiple use cases there. Each customer may start a little bit different, but 2 primary use cases which we see customers to start with is load balancing in private cloud, the first one, and the third one, if they are just doing a LAN right now, many times they start with the modern application which they want to shift to VCPP providers environment. But each customer is different, but that gives you so much room for land and expand for that. Let's look a little bit more into detail for that, how land and expand really works. You may start with your first customer. You might have an existing customer. That is the great place to start. You have built a relationship. They are consuming your services. And just like they use your other services, they should start using your load balancer. And once you land with first customer, deal sizes typically run from 30 to 50K. There may be some variance. That's a good chunk of the deal size to begin with. But this starts building pretty quickly. The more customers you add, maybe in a year you add 20 or you add 100 new customers, this can easily turn into a $1 million opportunity or revenue stream pretty soon in a year or so. The avalanche effect for expansion really starts when they start having more applications, bring more applications, start supporting the VDI use cases, build the ingress service for Kubernetes-based applications. You may expand to more locations. The customer wants to host their services in more of your pops into that. They may add a web application firewall, which we are going to talk a little bit later. But you see the huge expansion opportunity for that. So I want to take away 3 things from this discussion. Market is ready. Each and every applications require a load balancer. It is the basic need of application. Just like everybody need food, shelter, and clothing, it is just like that. Second thing, you have already built the infrastructure. You have to just add the load balancing there. And third is, this is the gift we'll keep giving to you with land and expand. So if you invest now, you will see this business keep growing because every customer is going to shift more application to your cloud and use more load balancing there.
Yeah. What I really like about this from a service provider perspective too is a couple of items. One, it's software-defined everything, right? Instead of having like you're mentioning, hardware-based load balancing. Because when you software define everything, now I could do a lot of my automation. Everybody's doing automation within their data centers, and having that integration with other VMware products just better enables that automation for service providers to be able to deploy these products. And a lot of service providers are doing, like you were showing, the different private clouds, hybrid clouds, public clouds, in these different environments. And now you have one consistent product to be able to use across all these different environments. I don't have to use a brand in my data center, an AWS version, an Azure version, a GCP version, right? I have one consistent approach to deploying load balancing across all of my different environments. So it's one consistent way of doing a lot of my internal automation that I'm doing to deploy out those services in these different environments. So, and it gives those end users like one consistent look and feel to how their application is going to perform across these different environments.
And this is not just true for the other cloud providers many times you compete. This is also true for F5 also, because for F5, you have a big IP for traditional application. You have EGNX for microservices-based application. Then you have Volterra, their own service, which you compete with for cloud-delivered application delivery controller load balancing. So you take away all those different problems for your customer and creates a new revenue streams for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point, Pankesh. What I was going to say was I think it aligns nicely to the cloud smart approach that we're looking for our service providers to kind of really start delivering against. I can see there's probably going to be a little bit of legacy pull through from older hosting providers who have kind of inherently stuck with selling boxes and selling hardware. But as you rightly point out, Steve, it's the challenge now is to automate and to automate consistently across all of those clouds. And this is a great opportunity to do so. I think one of the things that there's obviously lots of attach you could do to this in terms of upselling and attaching new services. When you're looking at that portfolio, I mean, Steve, how easy does Cloud Director make it to for a provider to expose these new attachable services to a tenant? And then obviously, how do we go about metering that? Is there, in the intricacies there is this manual sort of thing? Because I think there's great opportunity here, obviously, but it's how that portfolio develops and how that portfolio is offered that's going to be kind of the key to success.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good flexibility. So within Cloud Director, coming from myself from the service provider world for 17 years, we had all different types of customers, right? Some that you want to do a lot of handholding, some that want to do a little bit of their own self-service work, and some that want to do a lot of self-service work. So Cloud Director gives the service provider that level of flexibility to be able to deliver different services to different customers, all utilizing the exact same platform, right? It's the same hardware spend that they've done in their data center. Now I've exposed this portal to these different users to be able to deploy out these different services. So whether it's as simple as creating a virtual machine, creating an application, and now I want to add load balancing to that application. Typically what you'll see from those end customers are like, you know what, service provider, yes, you're enabling me to do things that I wouldn't be able to do myself. However, I need some of that self-service capability to do all that day zero work because I want to do it when I want to do it. I don't want to enter a request ticket to have you do some of the work for me because that just slows me down. Now that service provider is really enabling that end customer to be able to deploy their applications when they want to, make changes, right, very quickly, so that speed to market to allow those application developers to do the work that they want to do when they need to do it. And, and then the service provider is there to help them from a consultancy perspective from day 1 to day 1000 as that application is running. So the ability to, deploy different, again, applications, security tools, load balancing tools, all within an integrated Cloud Director portal. It's a huge win for that service provider. It's helping to reduce their own cost and just ease of use, right? The customer has one portal to go to be able to manage their environment, deploy all these different applications because we've done a lot of that integration with Cloud Director across multiple different, whether it's VMware products or even some third-party products that customers can use.
Yeah, and I know there'd been some hesitancy initially around ALB because we weren't at kind of feature parity with the old NSX V load balancing capabilities that were in VCD. Those are now been overcome, and like we said earlier, right, every VCD release now only supports ALB. So this is not a kind of a situation when service providers really are going to need to look elsewhere because it's going to be inherent and it's going to be out the box straight away for them.
And we do have different tiers of NSX ALB for customers, right? So
yeah,
not only is there just standalone if you don't happen to be using Cloud Director, but if you are using Cloud Director, there's a standard version, right? Which is very similar to what you would have received in NSX V to get that feature parity. Again, there's 0 points. So people familiar with the CSP program and the points program, 0 points for the standard basic load balancing that you would have received in NSX V. And then there's the premium version, which really enhances a lot of newer features that you're not going to get in NSX V. And it also enables some of the new items that we're working on, such as WAF, right? So web application firewalls. People are going to likely see that in our next release of Cloud Director. So that's a great new feature that we're enabling. Again, self-service capabilities for the tenants to, as I've built out my virtual service with NSX ALB, I can also turn on WAF if I need it for that application and have a lot of, again, self-service capabilities to, let's think about it this way. When you're first enabling a WAF application, do you just always just turn it on and do enforcement? No, I want to go in detection mode first, right? Because I don't want things to break, right? I might have set something up and not realized how these users were using the environment. So now I can go in detection mode, watch it for a month, see how everybody's using it, customers are using it, internal teams are using it, and then start looking at all the logs that we have for it. So I could do a lot of great analytics to determine, okay, here's how I want to enable WAF or make the tweaks to it, if you will, because I could do allow lists to have people bypass WAF. I can change specific WAF rules within Cloud Director. So all these, typical features that people do when they're first enabling a WAF application, if they were going to go directly into the NSX load balancer, instead, we're allowing that service provider to let the tenant go and do that work, right? Offload that work, helps the service provider reduce their cost. At the same time, it's enabling the tenant to do the things when they want to do it. So, right, all those great reasons. But it's not only is it reducing costs on the service provider side, but it's really enabling what the customer wants. The end customer wants to be able to use as they're enabling their own applications in production.
Yeah, Yeah, it's got a good kind of full circle to it now, in that we've got obviously Cloud Director delivering the infrastructure, we've got Kubernetes underlying the infrastructure, we've got the Content Hub delivering applications into that Kubernetes infrastructure, even on GPU with the GPU operators. We've got all of the data services that you could want in terms of analytics services, data warehouse services, NoSQL or SQL services. And so you can build your apps, publish your apps out into a production environment in Cloud Director, and also secure them, right? With NSXT, edge firewalling, distributed firewalling, and now ALB, web app firewalling as well. So, we're slowly building away these layers of protection, which is really cool for when you think about, what a production application needs to be.
And critical for those applications, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, really enables their business.
Cool. Aziz, I know you were going to kind of walk us around a few kind of pre-existing deployments you might have of ALB. Do you want to pick up the demo now?
Yep. NSX ALB integration with VMware Cloud Director started with 10.2 onwards. We are on 10.5 right now, the latest release. And there have been a lot of features, changes which have happened in the past. Summarizing them in one quick slide here. The licensing changes, which Steve mentioned just now, the premium and standard is available 10.4 onwards. So I'll quickly show that as well. And just to give a summary of what a provider can do and what tenant can do today, a provider can use NSX ALB as LBAS, Load Balancer as Service, where they can have use them as dedicated or shared mode across their tenants. They can kind of set quotas, limits per tenant. They can do monetization with respect to automated billing, the integration which we have with usage meter starting with 4.7, and also manage the life cycle of the NSX ALB, right? And the tenants, they can start consuming the layer 4, layer 7 SSL and IP with IPv4 and IPv6 features of the full enterprise grade ADC functionality can be consumed by the tenants inbuilt in VCD portals, right? And as Steve was mentioning, this is the feature set, the premium and standard offerings. Premium offers all that standard offers with additional metrics, analytics, and additional algorithms and persistent options. And in 10.5 VCD, we have added HTTP policies, and the coming feature, the release 5.1 or the upcoming releases, you will see WAF also getting enabled. So this is like unique. No other load balancer has this integration in VCD platform, right?
Yeah.
And
just to confirm on that, as is, when you're looking at the standard versus the advanced, right? That is something that is accounting that VCD is doing.
Yes.
We've imposed this this licensing restriction on within VCD to make sure that when service providers are saying to us, "Hey, it was all free with NSXV," now it's free with NSX ALB standard. But if you want the additional kind of enterprise options, you get charged per unit of those on a point value for every instance of an enterprise option.
Yeah, the premium option. So that's what the points usage or the licensing usage which Steve have mentioned. Yes. Thanks, Guy.
Cool. No worries.
Thank you. So a quick overview before I show you that how does the deployment work? We have our Cloud Director being the main orchestrator of all the infrastructure resources like the vCenter, NSX Manager, and the NSX ALB controller now as well. So the users, the service providers, as well as tenants can kind of carve out resources according to their requirements and kind of do multi-tenancy effectively. So the NSX ALB controller interacts with vCenter Manager and NSX Manager in the management domain. Again, we don't have to deploy them in each of the different tenants or virtual data centers, which are required VDCs. So, and it will provide networking for all of those tenants. So quick overview, like here we have Alpha and Bravo as two tenants, right? And they have their own edge gateways, the tier ones, and provider gateways. And the way the deployment works for NSX Advanced Load Balancer is that load balancer is going to sit in the management domain, but it's going to have a leg in each of these tenants with respect to the networking and providing load balancing capabilities. And as I mentioned, you can either do as shared or dedicated mode. Here, if you can see, the load balancer group A, service engine group A, is in shared mode across Alpha and Bravo, whereas service engine group B is a dedicated service engine group for only Bravo. Right. So these are all the decisions the provider can make before getting started or allowing their tenants to consume the load balancing capacities. This is the logical view, how it looks like. So Alpha has some pool VMs workloads which are running in a particular network or a subnet, and another subnet, 10.67.10.0/24 and 10.67.20.0/24, right? And all of those can be load balanced or provided the load balancing functionality by the service engine group sitting in the management domain, right? So this is a quick overview where all your management infrastructure with respect to VCD, vCenter, NSX manager, as well as the ALB controller sit in the management domain. The service engine group takes the management network path to communicate with them, whereas provide the data path load balancing functionality for the respective tenants.
Sorry to interrupt you. What's the core difference between shared and dedicated service groups?
Yes. So in shared service engine group, basically the provider sets what is the HA they need. So let's suppose you can say, I want active or active standby or endless M mode. And the tenants can share those same service engines. But the key part is that even though the VM or the load balancer is shared, the data path is not shared because each of them have a different VRF, right?
Yeah.
So they are segregated on the network, on the data path. The packet flows are all, contained in their own VRFs. So there is, the reuse of same network can happen. So if you see here, Bravo is also using 10.67.10.0.24 for their workloads, as well as Alpha is also using the same subnet. And there won't be any collision on the routes or the networking or cross traffic because they'll be in separate VRFs for the respective in the shared mode, right?
So
and
dedicated is, oh, sorry, go on. Yep.
Go ahead.
The dedicated really gives you then similar to the shared, but it's just like assigned resources. So you're basically just ensuring there's, yeah.
Partly it's a cost element, right? So you could have a lot of small tenants that instead of having them each with their own dedicated service engine groups, right? So now there's cost to that, especially if they were using premium. So it's a cost to the service provider to run those because they're all using virtual CPUs, RAM, and storage, right? So those are virtual machines. Those service engine groups are the virtual machines running the virtual services. So now I can put a bunch of small tenants within one service engine group to share those resources out. So it helps, again, one mantra we always had in the service provider world, cost is king, right? If I could reduce that cost and help me win business with my end customers, then that's what I'm going to do, right? So it's another option to be able to help lower the overall cost to get smaller tenants in.
Sure. And I expect that dedicated, well, each service group has a certain capacity, right? A service instance has a capacity of throughput. So it also could be dedicated due to a capacity reason.
Sure. Bigger customers definitely would typically have a dedicated service engine groups. Yeah.
So thanks, Steve and Guy. So this is a little bit of configuration, which I'll skip. So to summarize, the provider on day 0 deploys the ALB controller, and kind of configures the cloud configuration, which gets imported onto the VCD portal, right? And once this is set up by the provider, now the tenants can log in to the cloud director into the respective tenant views, and they can start utilizing the load balancing capacity by creating virtual services. And automatically, the ALB controller will provision those service engine data path elements and create the DFW policies and the interfaces which are needed to connect to their respective workloads to provide the load balancing capacity. It's just more of just point and click or use the automation APIs to kind of do all those integrations which are required.
That's a good point. So DFW policies are updated. So if you're using DFW, that's going to be a manual step if you weren't using ALB, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Now I'll quickly switch gears and kind of show the real meat of the piece. So this is our cloud director view as a provider, where this provider we have a vCenter, NSX manager, and the ALB controller added to it. And you can kind of access the ALB controller from here. I have it open on the tab here. I'll quickly show you what happens there. And on the infrastructure, this is what the provider sets up, the cloud, the NSX cloud, and the service engine groups, how you want to set up. We have dedicated service engine group or shared service engine groups. And once that is done, those are imported here, right? On the NSX cloud side, you import add the cloud and the group, service engine group in the part of the cloud. And once these are added and available in the VCD portal, the tenants can, so I have the tenants here. We have a cluster org 9, which is a org setup here, and they have a VDC setup. This is their VDC view. I'll go to their data center view. We have this. There are 101 virtual application VApps running. And if I look at the networking under the edge gateway, this is where we have the load balancer, where they can activate and they can set what feature set they want. So this tenant is using in premium. So because I wanted to show a lot of premium features here. So the load balancer right now is ingested as a premium mode. And we are not using currently transformative mode, which is basically inline load balancing. And once that is done, you can add those the servicing groups which are added by the provider to your tenants. And right now, if you see here, this is the capacity which was set by my provider. The tenant is using 100 virtual services out of the 1,000, right? So I have 90% capacity left. And if I look at the virtual services, the interesting part about this deployment is that these virtual services are getting created through the backend services, the container, if you say the modern applications, and automatically getting deployed on the VCD, which in turn gets deployed on the ALB controller, right? So if I quickly show you here, these are the virtual services, around 100 of them getting deployed automatically once they are created on the VCD context. And sorry, it's taking a little bit of time.
Oh, no worries.
So there are
lab resources, right?
Yep, this is a lab environment, and there is a lot of churn. I'm creating, deleting to kind of show the real time things. It will just take a couple of minutes, and I wanted to show the UI. Oh yeah, we have here. So this is what we have in the premium, where we provide you the UI elements of analytics as well. Right, you can see what is the RTT between the clients and servers. And you can see what is the throughput, open connections, and the current existing connections which are happening on this service directly, right? So you get the real-time analytics and metrics on this. And in 10.5.1, you have the policies also, which Steve has mentioned. And we are going to add WAF functionality as well here. So and you can have layer 4, layer 7 services getting created. So here in this environment, I have most of the services layer 4.
So as is when a tenant is configuring this, how do they know what is like standard and what is premium from the actual configuration?
Correct. So when they are importing or enabling the load balancer service on their edge, this is where they get the option to select either standard or premium. So they can consume the whole service engine group or the load balancer when they enable either in standard or premium. They need to decide here if they want to use consume standard or premium, and the billing will be done accordingly.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so that's cool. So there's obviously there's a bit of lag on this lab, but in general, then providers, can they limit the access rights that tenants have to ALB and control? Yeah.
I'll quickly show on that. So on the service engine group, when they import, right? And the resources when they are adding on the VDCs. So let's suppose the org 9, and I need to go to edge gateways. So let's suppose I here, this is where you can say what are the maximum allowed and what you can want to reserve for a particular tenant. You can set all those things here. So
Right.
for this tenant, this service engine group, we have set it as 1,000 and reserved 10. So minimum, everybody gets 10 virtual services to be created on the service engine group.
Okay. Okay. So it's like your basic get you started job. Okay.
And
right.
one other few key resources. So have a look at the VCD documentation where we keep updating about the new features, which is what we were trying to say. The next upcoming release will have WAF, and we have a detailed configuration guide also of how to configure and what features are available today. Like the policies which was introduced here, you have a good walkthrough on how you can enable those policies and how you can use them. And also to kind of keep a check on the interoperability, you can go to interopmatrix or vmware.com to check which version of VCD and what are the compatible versions for NSX ALB.
Right.
So that kind of concludes. This is what I wanted to share, Guy.
Yeah, thanks, Aziz. And obviously there's the VMware Validated solution.
Yes.
I believe that's correct, which will give you that interop as well. So plenty of kind of resources either on the doc site or on the cloud solutions site as well. Gentlemen, thank you very much for today. I think this is, well, it's definitely a integral offering with Cloud Director. And Pankaj, as you were saying, right, there's plenty of opportunity here for service providers. If you're not delivering kind of load balancing services today to your customers, then you absolutely need to be looking at it. Obviously, you'll probably be doing it via some sort of hardware-based resource rather than ALB, but have a look at ALB, because as customers want to do more in container spaces and dev-ready spaces, you saw, from what Aziz was showing there, that integration with Kubernetes and the ability for us to be able to create those load balancers dynamically with the integration with Tanzu platform, with container service extension and Cloud Director. These are going to become like table stakes for your customers. If they're not already, they are going to become very soon. So I think it's really important, especially when we start looking at things like AI applications and ML applications as well, and distributed computing. So have an explore. Aziz, is there any hands-on labs for ALB as well that may be of use?
Yep. There are plenty of hands-on lab which are available, and you can just go to the ALB documentation page, and you have all the resources there, the /resources. Maybe Pankaj, if you want to share a few details there.
There are a variety of HOL labs. If you go to two resources I will suggest. One is avinetworks.com, where you will find a lot of resources. If you visit VMware, you will find ALB page, and they have a lot of details. One more thing, especially for the technical audience of VCPP and CSPs here, we have recently launched that tech zone, which has a lot of detailed information about technology behind it. One more thing I want to highlight here, which Guy was talking about, that many times the biggest decisions for cloud are taken by cloud architects. So when you are talking about or convincing your customer to consume your advanced load balancer services, cloud architect will be your friend and your supporter, because typically what cloud architects care about is coming everything from same cloud provider, having a simplified automation, simplified workflow, simplified metering, deeper integration with the rest of the cloud platform. And the bigger concern for them or care about is the compliance for that. So if you are talking to your customer about ALB, make sure you speak to the cloud architect, because they value the integrated offering with the rest of the cloud they are recommending for that. So I'm sure you speak to the network buyer, you speak to the compute buyer, you speak to the storage buyer, but your biggest friend to consume all the portfolio which you offer as a VSP is the cloud architect. So for your top accounts or any land or expand deal, identify the cloud architect, and they will be the biggest champion for you to cross-sell as many as services you want to sell.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point, Pangesh. And actually, check out the links below. I'll put all the links to these resources that we've just discussed. There's also the partner demand kit that we created specifically for cloud providers to help them sell load balancing services. And they're obviously based on AVI, Advanced Load Balancer. So have a look at that. That's downloadable for free as well to help jumpstart your sales. So you can look at those discrete services and look at monetizing those with customers. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining Feature Fridays. It's been fun to have you as usual. And we look forward to a great VMware Barcelona at VMworld. VM Explore, sorry, keep on getting that wrong. Obviously the team from the Advanced Load Balancer product management, product marketing team are going to be there. So if any questions that you've got as a partner or, questions from your customers that you want to answer, please come up to the VMware booth and have a discussion. Thanks a lot, everyone. Take care.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.